Thanks, James. Good afternoon, everyone. I've got the less than enviable position of being the last speaker of the day, so I won't keep you here too long. I know you've got the big gala this evening. Thanks to the Space Frontier Foundation for allowing Virgin Galactic to present this year. And the topic of the keynote that the Space Frontier Foundation wanted us to speak about today was challenges for the suborbital spaceflight industry. And really to address two questions. What are the challenges that the suborbital spaceflight industry and companies like Virgin Galactic face today? And then what role does Virgin Galactic and the industry play in the wider commercial space sector? So before I get into answering those questions, I wanted to start with this quote, which I think is quite apt to sort of the point in time that Rick Tumblson described quite eloquently this morning. We're at a point that there is still a skepticism that this is a point where everyone in this room has the opportunity to fly in their space in their lifetime. And I think one of the key roles of the suborbital industry is to prove we can do it. The money's there, the money's been invested, and I'm going to touch on this a little bit, but I wanted to start with that quote to really set the scene. So part one, what are the challenges for Virgin Galactic and the suborbital industry? I haven't got time to go through all the challenges. As part of the project management team for Virgin Galactic, I know there's numerous challenges we face, but for the purposes of today's discussion, I've categorised them into four main areas. The first one is safety. These vehicles have to be safe. It's going to go hand in hand with the other areas that I get to, but these vehicles, we can't build a commercial business with an unreliable, unsafe vehicle. Linked to this is we need to be commercially viable. Companies like Virgin won't invest the hundreds of millions of dollars they're investing right now if these weren't commercially viable businesses. Well, third one, it's not just about the vehicles. Certainly in the press and the media and even in conferences like this, the vehicles get a lot of the attention, the Spaceship 2, the White Knight 2, and the infrastructure, the design effort and testing effort that goes on with these vehicles. But as part of the project team for Galactic, I know they're only a small part of the jigsaw puzzle. We're building a space line. And unlike an airline, a lot of the infrastructure, when you set up a new airline, is already there. But we need spaceports, we need airspace, we need suppliers, we need to meet the regulations. So it's not just about the vehicles in order to enter the suborbital industry. And the last one is creating the experience. And this goes back to the commercial viability. We have to create an experience that people want to buy, that's easy to sell, that is truly inspirational and is going to develop the market, not just for tourism, but other applications in the future. So I'll work through these four challenges and then move on to part two. So safety. Safety certainly starts with the design of the vehicles. And our natural partner in developing the Virgin Galactic mission is Scale Composites, having developed the successful Spaceship 1 platform. And that's thanks to this gentleman. I think everyone in the room is well aware of Bert Rutan, is a world-renowned aviation genius and expert. And it was really Bert that came up with the unique aspect of the Spaceship 1 technology that really allows us to have safe and reliable access to space. And that's related to the feathering system on Spaceship 2. So what prompted Bert to think about space? Bert had wanted to go, as the story goes, Bert wanted to go to space for a long time, but one of the key issues Bert didn't have a solution to was re-entry into the atmosphere. And he was plagued by this because he had a close friend, unfortunately, who was lost on the X-15 development program during re-entry into the atmosphere. And so this had Bert think about, well, what are the different ways you can enter the atmosphere? Another picture of the X-15. And you start to think about, well, what are the different aerodynamics of different things? Compare a bullet and compare a feather. If you think about that, they're very different ways to move through the atmosphere. And this led to the analogy of developing a system that acts like a shuttlecock. No matter which way you hit the shuttlecock, it eventually rights itself as it flies through the air. And that's very much the same principle that the feathering system on Spaceship 1, which has now been upgraded for the Spaceship 2, is based on. So what resulted in the Spaceship 1 system as a key part of its safety design was a vehicle that can travel at Mach 3 but also fold in half when the Q is low enough. And as an exclusive actually for the conference today, I actually have photos of Spaceship 2 in feather configuration. These are very recent photos from the Scale Composites factory floor that will be released shortly, but you can see a much bigger vehicle than Spaceship 1, and we're into functional tests of the feather, which is really exciting for the program. You can see a spaceship sitting between the two booms of the White Knight 2 carrier aircraft. And just another angle. We had to put holes in the ground because this hangar wasn't high enough to feather the vehicle. It's not what we're doing at Spaceport America. So in terms of the basis of design, the safety of the system, I've touched on most of this. We're bringing a lot of the Spaceship 1 heritage into the design of Spaceship 2, which really proved you could have a frequent access to space with this technology. The air launch system is a big part of the safety of this vehicle. When we have a mission, the intrinsic safety that comes from the air launch is the ability to abort the mission at any stage once you've deployed Spaceship 2. The carefree re-entry with the feather system I've discussed, and then the composite construction really allows companies like Scale, and they've been very successful at this, to build high altitude, heavy lift vehicles that can be used for these types of applications. So another part of safety is a testing program, and Virgin Galactic is now well into its testing program of both vehicles. We rolled out White Knight 2 in July 2008, and that kicked off the ground and test flight program for the Spaceship 2 platform, followed by its first flight in December 2008. We now have 100 hours flight time on White Knight 2 over 33 flights, and it's been a very successful flight test program. The second part of the stage system is obviously the Spaceship 2. Spaceship 2 was rolled out on an interesting evening in December, and I don't know if anyone in the crowd was here that night. So we had certainly a good party in true Virgin style and a good press event. It was a bit dampened at the end by a storm that came through, but testament to the Mojave Air and Spaceport that they evacuated all of us safely before the tent blew away. So it was a good night. And that's entered flight test. Spaceship 2 had its first flight test April this year in captive carrier configuration. So that's when it's attached to the bottom of White Knight 2 and is not deployed. It's now had 3 captive carrier tests, and probably the most significant was one we had last Thursday, which was its first manned flight, where we had 2 pilots on board Spaceship 2 and ran the vehicle through its functional tests. And I've got a very short video which we can switch to from that flight. It was a 6-hour flight, so quite a long duration flight. Spaceship won't fly.
Okay, that's good right there.
Mission. All right. Typical beautiful morning in Mojave before the winds come in. Is she pretty?
Put those like on quick mounts or something.
Velcro.
Yeah.
Velcro.
White Knight 2 is powered by 4 Pratt & Whitney engines.
Guess I better hurry.
Peter Seabold, the Director of Flight Operations at Scale Composites. Also flew the first flight of White Knight 2. So this is a runway takeoff for both vehicles. They're Pratt & Whitney 308 turbofans. They're using a couple of business jets. So that's Spaceship 2's first manned flight taking off. It was a huge milestone for the program. For those that have seen it from the ground, it's an odd vehicle to see flying in the air. It's like you've got 2 planes flying in perfect formation. It's 3 in this case. So in a normal mission, they'd fly in this configuration to 50,000 feet, and at that point, spaceship would be released, ignite its rocket motor, and take you on a suborbital trajectory into space.
No, we're good.
I think there's a short interview with Peter. So,
Congratulations, buddy.
Good job, man. Nice job. Oh, my feet are cold.
so that's a scaled first flight transition, or first flight on a vehicle
All
for a
our
pilot.
systems were turned on, pressurization, learned how all the various subsystems work, avionics work, and really put everything through the paces. And we've done quite a bit of taxi testing, and yeah, this is the first time that we flew manned in the spaceship, and it was an exciting time.
Great, thanks. Yeah, it was a good day. So designing and testing the vehicles is a huge part of the safety system for the space line, but there are other aspects. Let me mention the rocket motor briefly. The third part of our system that's under develop is the rocket motor. We're working with Scale Composites and Sierra Nevada Corporation in developing the world's largest hybrid rocket motor that is for Spaceship Two. This is a photo of a test, I believe last April, and since then the hot fire testing has continued apace. So what are the other aspects? And I'm not going to touch all of them, but certainly in terms of the crew and both the passengers, of our future astronauts on the vehicles, we need to prepare them for this flight. The G profile, including the high G phases and the zero G phases. So you can see some of the things we've already initiated at Virgin Galactic. There's some of our team, Dave Clark, our sales executive in the center there on a zero G flight. And then we're working with the NASTAR facility in Pennsylvania, near Philadelphia. We've put our first 100 customers through the centrifuge there. And what that really showed us was that a higher percentage than we initially expected can actually fly this G profile from the general public, which is great news for the commercial viability of the business. Like any other operation, the emergency response planning, so already working with the New Mexico Spaceport Authority and White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico on looking at if we do have an emergency in commercial operations, how do we handle that and respond to it. So the next theme that I want to talk about was commercial viability, and it was mentioned in the panel session at the beginning of today. The volume, you really need to prove the market, and that was very much the case with Virgin Galactic and will be the case with other suborbital players out there. And before Virgin would invest any money in developing the Spaceship Two platform, we actually had to sell $10 million worth of deposit, $10 million worth of tickets, in order to prove the market to our board and that there was actually a business here. That's continued apace. We now have over 350 customers, future astronauts from around the world that are signed up to fly aboard Virgin Galactic. The total deposits now received are over $50 million. And importantly, Virgin's not using that money to fund the business. That money is in escrow and will only be sort of converted to Galactic money when the tickets are issued to the future astronauts. And that's important for Virgin. There's risks in programs like this and that we didn't lock up that money. And probably just to mention, we have weathered the global financial crisis very well. You need to keep selling tickets, and part of that is actually we've developed an ASA network around the world. Virtuoso are our exclusive travel partner in the US for selling tickets aboard Virgin Galactic. What else adds to commercial viability? Certainly we've talked about, I'm going to talk about the experience in a short amount of time, but if you compare the Spaceship Two system to the Spaceship One system, a lot of the changes in the design are really to make it a commercially viable business. Spaceship One could only take 2 passengers, whereas Spaceship Two can carry 6 passengers and much more payload. The other big design difference, which is going into development of Spaceship Two, is the ability to turn this vehicle around. We're turning this into an airline operation. It's not something that will fly once a month. Ultimately, we want to have these vehicles flying every day, possibly a quicker turnaround than that. So size matters, and that really drove the configuration change. You can see a front cross-section of both the vehicles. Another part of the commercial viability was the product, and when Virgin did its research, it was essential that our customers could get out of their seat and experience zero-G, be an astronaut, blow liquid bubbles, do the kinds of things they see the astronauts doing aboard the ISS and the shuttle. And so that mandated, with the need to fly X number of passengers per flight, a cabin size, and as a result of that, the configuration had to change. So size does matter in this case. The third part of commercial viability is being business savvy, obviously, and I think this is a key strength of the Galactic program, is that Virgin is certainly a very successful brand of venture capital. We bring this experience into the Galactic program in customer service, in commercial operations, in design, and many other aspects that you see up there. So the third theme in terms of what are the challenges facing the suborbital industry is not just about the vehicles. Certainly we have vehicles flying, we have hardware flying, which is exactly what we need right now. But we also need to build the other infrastructure up around these vehicles. First thing is we need somewhere to fly from. New Mexico really came to the fore here and invested $200 million, over $200 million, currently is investing, in developing a purpose-built spaceport in New Mexico for Virgin Galactic and other tenants. So here you can see some of the initial design concepts for this hangar. We had Foster's and Partners win a design competition. They were the designers of the Gherkin, for anyone who's been to London, if you know the building I'm talking about. So these are some of the architects and designers' concepts of the interior. So really we've been involved very much in the planning and designing of spaceport to build a commercial operation. From just housing the hangars, we also have to house our customers. And again, I think we bring a lot of the Virgin sort of exemplary customer service in how we're going to handle the future astronauts when we fly them. This is a reality. This is the runway at Spaceport America. It's going to be inaugurated later this year. It's a 10,000-foot runway, and really they're full steam ahead down there on the ground. A shot of the terminal hangar facility. You see it. It's pretty close so far to the artist's impression I showed you earlier. In the center there, you can see the terminal hangar facility has gone vertical. And I think I've got a closer up shot. So this is really exciting. We've seen New Mexico, this site be gone from nothing to this, and we've got an excellent partner in the New Mexico Spaceport Authority. So what are the other things we need to worry about? Well, partners and stakeholders. I think I haven't listed all of them up here. There's probably thousands, but if you look at the types of relationships we need to develop, a lot of these have nothing to do with the vehicles, and this is why it's not just about the vehicles as a challenge for the suborbital industry. The other thing, to run a commercial business, we can't do it with one Spaceship 2 or one White Knight 2. We actually need a fleet of these vehicles. So there's a new company that's been formed, and part of my role is to direct the setup of this company. It's called TSC, or the Spaceship Company. And its mission is to build the fleet of Spaceship 2s and White Knight 2s that will go into commercial service. It's a company you're going to hear a lot more about, I think, over the next year or so, but we're currently assembling a team of individuals to run TSC in Mojave. I've dropped, we're recruiting like mad, so if you're interested in an opportunity, certainly let me know. TSC was founded by Virgin Group and Scale Composites. It's a new aerospace manufacturer. We will be an assembler and integrator of Spaceship 2s and White Knight 2s. We're not intending to do everything in-house, so we're also building up a supply chain for TSC. And this is Building 79 at Mojave. It's where TSC is currently located. It's our sub-assembly facility, not far from X-Core and where the White Knight 2 and Spaceship 2 vehicles are. And plans are afoot to build a final assembly hangar at Mojave Airport. So again, the vehicles aren't everything. There's a lot of other things that the project management team on the Galactic Group are currently working on. Operational readiness. If you think about for a second an airliner, again, it's not just a vehicle to get that off the ground. You've got fueling services, cleaning services, your regulations, which I've got a slide on. You've got to lock in your airspace. You've got to, your mission planning. All of that is stuff that we're working on in the project management team, and that's why it's not just the vehicles as a challenge. And I've touched on the regulatory. We need licenses and permits to fly these vehicles, and certainly we're working with our partners at the FAA in order to get there and get that in place. Okay, so the fourth challenge is really creating a marketable product. it's all good. You have a vehicle that flies to space, but it's got to be a product that your market wants to buy. And our initial market is the suborbital tourism market, but there's obviously other things we can do in the future potentially. So how do you go from your prototype to your product? What are the things that are really going to enable you to sell this? And what are, and I think our development period is obviously a lot shorter between the two types of phones you see there. So we ran a survey of people interested in flying into space with Virgin Galactic. So I'm going to open the question up to you, and I've got hints on these slides. What are the things you want out of a suborbital spaceflight tourism? And that's your first hint. Anyone? The view, exactly. So the view of Earth is key. So we need to think of that in the design. What about this one? Yeah, microgravity. Feel like an astronaut. Experience the sensation of weightlessness. What about this one? Blackness of space, exactly. So absolutely, the majesty of space. Bring the majesty of space into the experience. And what about this one? Engine, fire and smoke. Yeah, I think they're all pointing to the same thing. The ride. This is going to be the ride of your life. And so we need to make sure our customers and the participants in these flights are really tuned for that and prepared for it. So looking at our transition from the Spaceship 1 prototype to the Spaceship 2, Spaceship 1's mission was to win the X Prize, a mission it completed and did very well. Our mission is to turn this into a business, not just to make money, but also to open space up to the general public. As we said, size matters, and this really drives the need to have a larger cabin. I think I've touched on this, so I'll move through these quickly. It's interesting, until January 2008, the world thought Spaceship 2 and White Note 2 were going to look like this. This is, I think, an Aviation Week article before we launched it, but really the world at that point didn't realise it had this configuration. Somehow Virgin managed to keep something secret. Spaceship stability. We can't have for those that have seen the Spaceship 1 flights, there was some hairy moments in the stability of the aircraft, and obviously that's not suitable for the experience we want to put our customers through. So I can't go into the details, but you can see there's subtle differences in the design of the wing and design of that affect the stability of the aircraft. Pilots. This is a big difference, and this is maybe from the operator experience. Spaceship 1 was flown by Brian Binney, obviously a very good test pilot and navigator, fast jet pilot. But the vision for Sir Richard Branson is eventually to use the pilots from his airlines to fly these vehicles. So when we're going through the testing and design process, we've got to, we need to make sure it's safe to do that. And obviously we're starting with pilots from Virgin Atlantic that have a fast test background, but that's certainly a goal of the program. We need to do that to commercialise this. The view and windows. If you talk to Brian Binney, there's lots of windows on Spaceship 1. They didn't show you much, and you had to sort of interpolate, according to Brian, between the different windows as you're flying, especially as you're approaching for landing. So a key part of the Spaceship 2 design was a lot better views, not just to explore the view of the Earth and see the majesty of the blackness of space, but also for the pilots for field of vision. Interior space, it's pretty cramped in there. You may have seen this is a shot from our animation on the website. We needed to increase the size of the interior space and make it open so we can do some interesting things in there. That's just a side shot of the comparison of the vehicles. So what is the experience? Too many words in this slide, but 2 to 3 days of preparation for the future astronauts. It's key in the experience they can get out of their seat. They can experience 0G. They can experience the positive G on boost and re-entry and enjoy the view. 6 passengers, 2 pilots, about 2.5 hours, and the experience costs $200,000. So that's sort of the experience, really, in a nutshell, that we're selling. And this is the mission profile. I do recommend on the Galactic website, no time today, there is a good profile that walks you through the mission profile. So, on to part 2. So the 4 themes there were about what are the challenges, and I drew parallels with Virgin Galactic. What are the challenges for the suborbital tourism industry? So the next part is, what role do we really play? Why is suborbital tourism important? Why should companies, Virgin Galactic, close their business plan? Why should we pursue these opportunities? And again, I'm not going to explain all the roles, but I sort of, as I prepare for this, 3 or 4 main areas. First one is going back to this quote. When I get to it. Back to this quote. Virgin Galactic has to be successful, to eliminate any further skepticism that commercial spaceflight is possible. This has to be something. We have to prove we can do it. That is one of the key roles that the suborbital industry has in order to unlock funding to other elements of the commercial space sector. Certainly, prizes have played a key role in the development of the Spaceship One program and then Spaceship Two program, and there's certainly parallels again to draw with what was done in early aviation. And certainly that went on to win the scaled and X Prize of Pierre Diamandis, and Paul Allen went on to win the X Prize successfully in October 2004. And I think what really shows you, sort of points to this theme that we have to get this right. We have to make this business successful, and we will. Is really where the Smithsonian placed Spaceship One in its museum in DC. It's between the Bell X-1, it's between the Spirit of St. Louis. So that really sends a message that they saw Spaceship One as really the groundbreaking or the pivotal moment that commercial manned spaceflight is possible. So touching on this point again, I think the key thing is we must be commercially viable in order to, for our own right, we're a business, we have to do that. But I think also to unlock future investment in the commercial space industry. And this really needs to be the mission of the whole suborbital industry. I think we've demonstrated we can do it. Last July, we announced a $280 million investment by a very investment-savvy group called ABAR out of Abu Dhabi. And that was announced at Oshkosh in 2009. The final area, and I like this quote from John Glenn, is another role we have to play is quite important. That's to keep space inspirational. I think that's an important mission of the suborbital tourism market. We have the ability for people to see the majesty of the Earth below us, the thin atmosphere, the thin fragile atmosphere. And when you talk to any astronauts who have flown the shuttle or the Mir or the space station, they're very similar comments. So I think there's an important aspect of Virgin Galactic and the suborbital industry remaining inspirational. It's inspirational for STEM, for developing the future science and engineers of this community. So wrap it up, and just on time. I guess in conclusion, so there's two questions I was asked today. So what are the challenges being faced by the suborbital spaceflight industry and companies like Virgin Galactic? The first one is safety. We just have to be safe. That's the only way we can be commercially viable, which is the second challenge we have to face. The third one is it's not just about the vehicles. We can design a fantastic Spaceship 2 and a fantastic White Knight 2, but with no further infrastructure to support that, we just can't build a business that's successful. And we need to create the experience, a product that is marketable, easy to sell, and really you can see they all tie into each other. And what is the role that Virgin Galactic and other companies in this industry play? Well, I think the first one is we have to prove we can do it. That is our role. That's going to unlock further investment in not just suborbital tourism and different platforms and different applications, but also in different markets in orbital and beyond. And the third one is really continue providing inspiration. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Enrico. That's the end of the talks today. Tomorrow will be all about the future of NewSpace. And also, do not forget about the awards gala tonight. It'll start at 6 o'clock down right outside where the bar is. And we will then have dinner in this room at 7 o'clock. Thanks.